Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Great America Show. It's great to have you with us. Thanks so much for joining us. It's been a rough, I'd say, week and a half for the Marxist Dems since President Trump was declared the winner of the 2024 election. A lot of Democrats still trying to swallow that red pill that President Trump handed to them on that great night, just like I said, just about a week and a half ago. In 2016, we heard a lot of Marxist Dems saying they were going to flee the country. They were going to leave this damn place if President Trump won the election. Of course, none of them ever held up on that promise that they were going to do that. We finally have one now that the 2024 election is passed. Hollywood actress Eva Longoria, I'm sure a lot of you guys know, announced that her and her family will be leaving the country and splitting their time between homes in Mexico and Spain because they're terrified that President Trump is going to cash in and come through on the promises he made during his election. Secure border. I don't know why you'd be so worried about a secure border. Cutting the budget. I don't know why you'd be so worried about saving money. Cutting inflation. Now, I know that's a hard one for Eva Longoria considering how rich she is, but for the average hardworking American like you and I, the cutting of inflation will do a great deal of help for us, whether it be putting gas in our car, going to the grocery store, buying groceries, going to the store and buying your child school supplies. The list is endless on what inflation has hit under this Biden regime. So good on her for coming through on her promise to leave the country. We welcome it. And everyone else who wants to go with her, we welcome you folks to go as well. This is the greatest country in the world. I've had the privilege to travel all around this world, all around this country, everywhere in the world you can possibly think, pretty much. And each and every time I'm away, all I can think about is coming back home to this great country because there is truly no place like it. And these fools who are leaving the country will soon realize that. But good riddance to them. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. Sad to see you go. Not really. President Trump is hard at work this week, filling up his cabinet. We've told you these past 2 or 3 days an updated list of everyone who's gone into the cabinet. The latest one this week, a big one, is RFK Jr. getting that job at Health and Human Services that he wanted so bad. Now, a lot of people don't realize the budget for Health and Human Services for 2025 is among the largest of every single government agency that gets funded at just over $1.8 trillion. Now, RFK has come in and said he's going to go a great deal of cutting there. So with a $1.8 trillion budget for those folks, I think there's a lot you can do. So it's great on him to go ahead and keep his promise to RFK for that endorsement and everything that RFK has done for this MAGA movement. Another big one we're hearing about is Tulsi Gabbard at DNI, which in my opinion is excellent. A former Democrat who was felt the wrath of the deep state, what they did to President Trump, his family, and everybody around President Trump. She felt the wrath of it when she decided to run against Hillary Clinton in that presidential election. They tortured her. They ruined her life. They tried to ruin her life, put her on terrorist watch lists when she got on airplanes. This is a woman who's a veteran who served this country, who went on to go ahead and be a congresswoman from the great state of Hawaii. Has done nothing but devote her life to this country. But because she spoke out against the machine, these corrupt, bureaucratic lowlifes, to keep it nice and simple and easy and clean on this show, she's paid the price of it. But now I think she's going to go ahead and get to uncover a lot of what we haven't got to uncover in this country over the last 3.5 years. The neocons and rhinos are melting down about it. Take, for example, John Bolton, that rhino with the big mustache and the glasses who once worked for President Trump and had a meltdown when President Trump fired him because of how stupid he was. Take a listen to John Bolton on CNN.
Well, I thought it was the worst cabinet level appointment in history until they then heard about the Matt Gaetz appointment. Really, my reaction was that this is like the legend of Caligula, the Roman emperor, who wanted to nominate his horse as a Roman consul. You had to be a Roman senator at the time to be a consul, and it was intended to show how demeaned and degraded the Roman Senate had become. So now we're going to see whether the American Senate can stand up and reject two people who are totally unqualified, unfit professionally, and and really lacking in the moral characteristics, the character that you need to hold these jobs. I think this vote should be 100-0 against both of them.
Bolton, a real dope, but I thought he'd be great because he was so stupid. He was like a boiler. Every time, if somebody shot down a little tiny crappy drone that cost about $15, he'd want to go to war with Russia. I said, no, I think he was great for me, though, for a period of time because he was a nut job, and everybody, I could see his face get red with that stupid white mustache, and he'd be ready to explode. And this was good for me. I went to Kim Jong-un in North Korea. I took this moron with me, and he never said anything. But when Kim Jong-un saw him, he said, oh, shit, I think the guy wants to go to war. So he was great for me to negotiate with. The same thing with Russia. You know, when Putin saw him, I'd be very nice. I'd say, hi, Vladimir, how you doing? And then Putin's, 2 rows back, and it'd see that moron, and it'd say, holy shit, this guy wants to go to war with me.
President Trump, I mean, the man is simply brilliant. There's no other way to put it, among some of the smartest people I've ever met. Another man who I think is probably the smartest person I know. Sorry, President Trump, you're up there, but the smartest man I know, the man who taught me everything, the man who allows me to sit in this chair every single day and bring you the news is the great Lou Dobbs. And after Bolton's departure from the administration, he went out and wanted to write a book and bash President Trump. We've already heard all the stuff and all the lies. And, it doesn't matter what it is. Everything, 99% of the stuff they've come out against Trump is false. He went over to the beaches, to the memorials for World War II, and he said, I don't want to go. Those guys are a bunch of suckers and losers. Turns out it was never true, never happened. A bunch of lies. I mean, the list goes on and on. It's a litany of lies that these people have done to us over the course of the last, 9 years or so. So back to Lou Dobbs, the great Lou Dobbs. I want to play a clip from you, and I want to try to do this more often on the show to pay homage to him because he deserves it more than anybody. He fought harder than anybody the last few years to get President Trump back in this White House and did everything he could to hold the Republican Party accountable and to make sure that President Trump is back there. I want to play an old clip of the great Lou Dobbs on his show on Fox Business with Ed Rollins and Mike Goodwin just after Bolton decided he was going to write a book.
John got his feelings hurt because the president wouldn't go all the things he wanted to do, which is
you mean blow the hell out of things that he wanted blown up?
And John had.
I mean, come on, let's talk about it. I mean, he's a neocon.
John absurdly had ambitions to run for president at one point in time. Everybody forgets that.
Yeah, well, the hell with his ambitions.
Well,
the fact of the matter is he was serving the president of the United States, a president who, by the way, ran on ending these endless wars. And John Bolton is a neocon, conflict-crazed.
Well, that's what made their marriage so, bizarre.
It's one of the things.
Yes.
The other is that John doesn't have the throw weight to play, put it simply. Ed, you get the last word.
The last word is if John knew he had put these words in a manuscript, he should have got over there and corrected it.
Well, Fred Fleitz, who served as chief of staff to Mr. Bolton twice and considers him still a great friend, is urging him to throw away the book, throw away the manuscript, and tear up the check. Now, you all figure out, based on the way he's behaved, how likely that is to come. But Fred Fleitz made the recommendation, and I think Fred has a damn good idea.
He does, man of integrity. Fred is.
Thank you.
Man, every time I hear his voice, I miss him more and more. And every morning I wake up, and before every time I go to bed, I think about him, and I love him, and I can't wait to see him again one day. So John Bolton, obviously a neocon, a rhino, and a no-good fella. Among some other people, neocons and rhinos, President Trump won't be welcoming back into the White House this administration. Here's a message President Trump posted on Truth Social this week. Quote, I will not be inviting former Ambassador Nikki Haley or former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo to join the Trump administration, which is currently in formation. I very much enjoyed and appreciated working with them previously and would like to thank them for their service to our country. Make America great again, to which Nikki Haley directly replied, quote, I was proud to work with President Trump defending America at the United Nations. I wish him well and all those who serve great success in moving us forward to a stronger, safer America over the next 4 years. Now, we obviously don't believe her because she's cut from the same cloth that, of course, John Bolton is cut from, where all they want is war. And speaking of war, one of our biggest enemies overseas, Iran, is acting up, and they have been acting up for some time now. President Trump, as diplomatic as he is, not a war president, doesn't like war, doesn't want to get us into any wars, already starting to try to simmer down tensions between Iran. I've said this often on this show. The country is a business, and it has to be run like a business. And President Trump has by his side perhaps the best businessman in the world. Not perhaps, I take that back. The best businessman in the world, the smartest man in the world, the richest man in the world, Elon Musk. Elon Musk reportedly met with the Iran's ambassador to the UN this week to try to figure out how we can tone down some tension. So President Trump, not even 2 weeks after being elected president, well, not elected, but winning the presidency, and he's already trying to simmer down these tensions that the Biden administration has managed to work up over the last 3.5 years, now almost 4 years. I want to bring in our guest today. He's Russ Tice. He's a former senior NSA intel analyst and whistleblower, a great American as well, a great friend of the show, a great friend of the great Lou Dobbs. Russ, I want to get your take first with the Iran situation. Elon Musk negotiating, well, not negotiating, we won't use that just to not piss off any leftists on the show, but speaking with Iran's UN ambassador to try to figure out how we can tame down some tensions before President Trump takes office in January.
Well, the Iranian situation is sort of interesting. Aside from the fact that they fund the terrorists, especially Hamas and Hezbollah, they're Lord knows how close they are right now to finalizing their a nuclear weapon, and they've dug that capability to the ground, so it's not easy for us to try to take it out.
Right. So
one of the considerations right now should be to try to mitigate the possibility of that happening. If negotiations can do that, very good. But I'm not sure I trust the Iranians as far as I could throw them, and good luck to Mr. Musk. But as Mr. Reagan said, trust but verify, because I don't think those mullahs would negotiate in good faith.
Yeah, but make no mistake, Elon Musk is perhaps the smartest person on Earth right now. That's only because Lou Dobbs passed away. But Elon Musk is no fool, Russ. He runs the most successful company in the world, richest man in the world, smartest man in the world, modern day Albert Einstein. I don't think he's going to get fooled by the mullahs by any account. But how do you simmer down Russ Tice if you're in that position? How do you simmer down the tensions with Iran without going to war?
Well, there's a lot of triggers for Iran. One is their own people. The powers that be in Iran are concerned that their own people are going to overthrow them. Right. Especially think about it. Since a vast majority of their population was born after the Iraqi war, so they're relatively young, and they had a little bit of taste of freedom for a while, or at least their grandparents may have told them what it was like before 79. So it's I would think that if we're fostering the powers that be to try to overthrow them, that they're and we're doing that where they can tell, then that's going to be their number one trigger, because they want to stay in power, just like anybody in a power relationship like that, where they're basically not a dictatorship, but a bureaucracy. But so I would cool it on having our CIA foment the unrest, and then try to talk in good faith about what we can do to help them maybe get back into the world where they can be respected and trusted as long as and they can sell their oil again, because we still have sanctions on them if they play along. If try to get back in order, and but we cannot have them having nukes, because the Armageddon could start. I think the Bible says it starts in the Middle East, and Iran with nukes and Israel with nukes. that's quite a bad situation.
Yeah, I mean, Russ, we're not asking for much. We're just asking for them to not have nuclear weapons. And I mean, I don't know if America has them or not. You know better than I don't know where their capabilities are at right now. But I would think in the back of my mind, regardless of who the president is, America would be the last country to launch a nuclear weapon. So I don't see any worry from Iran even worrying about America doing so. President Trump, apparently, before he left office, he was working on denuclearizing the world and having everybody just go ahead and denuclearize all their capabilities for nuclear weapons. And I think that's absolutely the most brilliant idea. I don't know why everyone would not want that. It doesn't make sense to me. If we're going to fight a war with Russia, if we're going to fight a war with China, why not do it the old school way? Why do we need these nuclear weapons to go ahead and end the world? Because that's exactly what it's going to do, Russ.
That's another catch-22 scenario. We have countries like Pakistan now that have that capability, and the flashpoint between them and India, who also have that capability. So I think it's almost naive to say we could totally get rid of all our nukes. But if we can just try to make sure that everyone understands that, if something big got started, we all die. You could throw so many that, you could bounce the rubble a few times, but in the process, the unlucky ones would be the ones that survive. So, and if one party is just set on martyrdom, and that's, a wonderful thing, then, then you got a problem when that mindset takes over, when somebody's got a finger on a nuke.
The other issue that we're having is obviously Iran is the largest state sponsor of terrorism across the world, I guess you can say. And we hear now this week that the United States has made a proposal to Lebanon to go ahead and end their war, gave them a ceasefire proposal to go ahead and end their war over there with Israel. I don't see why these folks don't want peace in the Middle East, Russ. Do you think we'll ever see a day that we have that?
Well, I think biblically they say no, but Lebanon used to be the hot spot of the Far East. I should say of the Near East. Mm-hmm. It was a beautiful city, Beirut, and it's since been destroyed and major problems. And you've got the Hezbollah, who's basically running the show there now. So it's. A powerful Israel is key to and maybe under President Trump, we had the Abraham Accords where we were starting to get a whole lot of Arab nations that were siding. Now a lot of that keyed on their fear of Iran, right? So but it's, of course, the administration that came in now sort of put a kibosh on all that. But and they don't seem to be supporting Israel as probably as well they should. But gee, I would. Do I think it's going to happen? I sadly say no. Do I hope it happens? Absolutely.
Yeah, I think we're agreeing with you, Russ. We're going to take a quick break here. We're talking with Russ Tice, a former senior NSA intel analyst and whistleblower, a great American as well. Russ, when we return, I want to take up the new administration that's incoming. John Ratcliffe as CIA director, Tulsi Gabbard at DNI, maybe Kash Patel over at FBI, Mike Waltz at NSA, and some of these folks and the job that they're going to be needing to do. I want to get your take on what needs to be done to actually clean up the intelligence community. I also want to take up the Pentagon is reportedly scrambling to wipe evidence of any DEI in their papers at all, as President Trump gets ready to come back to office. We're talking with Russ Tice. We're coming right back. Stay with us.
I'm excited to announce our Christmas extravaganza is finally here. Get this season's flannel sheets for as low as $59.98. They won't last long, so get them while you can. Our famous My Slippers, they haven't been on sale for over a year. Regularly $119.98, now only $59.98. Our 6-piece towel sets are back in stock with extremely limited quantities, only $29.98. With hundreds of My Pillow products, there's something for everyone on your Christmas list. Bathrobes, duvets, quilts, down comforters, and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save on all My Pillow products. For example, flannel sheets for as low as $59.98, or our 6-piece towel sets, just $29.98. But that's not all. I'm extending our 60-day money-back guarantee until March 1st of 2025. Plus, all orders over $75 or more ship absolutely free.
We're back, folks. Thanks for staying with us. We're talking with Russ Tice, former senior NSA intel analyst and whistleblower. Big whistleblower. It changed the course of history, I think, when it came to the Patriot Act and spying on Americans. And it took a big man, literally and figuratively, to go ahead and do something like that. So we're, I think, forever in debt to Russ for the great work that he's done on calling out government corruption. Russ, I want to turn to your thoughts as we look at this new administration that President Trump is looking to bring in. John Ratcliffe as CIA director, Tulsi Gabbard at DNI, RFK at HHS, Mike Waltz, who I'm least excited about at NSA. What needs to be done, Russ? We'll start with this, to clean up the intelligence community as a whole.
Well, I'll tell a little story first. When General Minahan first went to NSA, he decided that he was going to try to clean up NSA because of some of the problems they were having there. And in SCS, I heard him say, you know what, we can deal with Minahan because he's only here for 3 years or so, and we'll just wait him out. Right. And we'll just stonewall him, and we won't tell him everything he needs to know, and we'll basically do some dog and pony shows, and we can wait him out to the point where he's gone, and then we can now the next director after that was Michael Hayden, and oh my gosh. But so basically you have an upper echelon, especially in the senior executive services and a lot of the GS-15s, government service 15s, that they are enmeshed in the deep state as far as the intel service. A director comes and goes, but for a director to truly be effective, first of all, they need to recruit some lieutenants and a deputy that are just as steadfast as they are about cleaning the mess up, and hopefully in this case, on the MAGA train. And then you go in and you got to start slicing these people out, these SCSs. And just like when President Trump was first in there, they're going to smile at Miss Gabbard and Mr. Radcliffe, and they're going to but they're snakes, and they're going to roll up their legs, and they're going to put their fangs right into the hindquarters, right. And they have to be weeded out. And it comes down to a lot of the detail. So how does a director find out? Who are the bad influences here? And what kind of program, like the CIA, if they were involved in trying to assassinate President Trump, where do you find that? That you find that in minutia is where you find that. That's not going to be. I'll guarantee you right now, at all the intel agencies, they've got the grinders grinding, they've got the gougers gouging, they've got the shredders shredding, and they've got the bit sweepers sweeping to wipe out as much as they can of all the dirty dealings that they've done, especially in this administration, right. and in the past too, the Clintons and a whole lot of dirty dealings, even dirty dealings that they were doing under Trump that he didn't know about. So the key is to find the right people, that can dig into the nitty gritty. They can go and that knows what an ECI is, or a VRK, which is exceptional controlled information or very restricted knowledge. These are SAP programs, special access programs. I specialized in SAP programs when I was at DIA and at NSA. And for instance, if you're going to have an assassination, you will tie it to one of these SAP programs to utilize their special control systems. You're not going to have it on the regular web system, what they call in this Intel service called JWIX, because you're trying to hide that, and you may even get the money for it by attaching it to some other system. You've got other SAP programs that are unacknowledged or ghost programs. I knew of 3 ghost programs that no one in Congress knows about. No one. One of them, there was only one senator that knew about it, and I can't really explain why, because somebody might figure. But it was a program that was very advantageous for our security. But but we had a problem with that. There was a misstep, and when I tried to say, hey, we have to do some basically some soul searching here to make sure that we don't shoot from the hip. And I had one of the guys that I worked with. He said, look, we don't have control. There's no oversight for what we do. We do whatever we want.
Right.
So then I realized he was right. When I testified to the very few at the Congress that had the kind of SAP level clearances that I had, I mentioned a problem with one of the programs, and none of them there knew it. It was a ghost program. And they looked at me and they're like, are you sure about that? I'm like,
what do you mean by ghost program, Russ?
A ghost SAP is one that no one in Congress knows about. Nobody. Not the big 8, the Intel committees and the appropriations / Department of Defense committees. No one knows about them at all. There's the unacknowledged programs. Those at least go to the big 8, but the ghost programs, no one knows about. When Representative Hoekstra, because of what I said in that meeting, when he found out about it, he quietly wrote a letter to I think the Secretary of Defense and said, "What the heck? How come I don't know about this?" Because he was the chair of the House Intelligence Committee. Well, of course, he didn't have a clue. Well, yes, I was the one. Everyone speculated whether I was the one that dropped the dime on that. Well, of course, I did it in a skiff, a SAP level skiff, where I had these folks, the staffers the few that had the clearances. But obviously, they got it to Hoekstra to let him know that, oh, by the way, this is a ghost program. So there are these programs, and they could be attached to something like trying to kill a president. So if you got to have the right people. She and he have to have the right lieutenants at the spooks that can dig into this stuff and know where the minutia is, because that's the details where the devil is in all these things. And one thing I would do right now, if I were them, I would make an announcement to tell all the world or all the intel world that if we find out that you're deleting and that you're destroying all kinds of documents and everything, we're going to basically hang you up by your nether parts and make life very painful for you.
But there's no accountability for these folks, Russ. I wouldn't. If I was one of them and you told me that, I'd laugh in your face and say, "The hell are you going to do to me?" Because that's what it's come to. Over the last. Even when President Trump was in there was no accountability for these folks. We mentioned John Bolton. There was no accountability for John Bolton and all the bad stuff he did. Now, granted, before he went into the White House, the Marxist Dems were going crazy. This guy's a war hawk. When he comes out of the White House, he's their best friend. He's on every single mainstream media news outlet, pushing his nonsense and his propaganda. So there is no account. I was talking with Lee Smith on this show this week, great author. One of the first people to go out and call out these deep state folks and do a deep dive of what exactly went on. And what Lee constantly says time and time again is Obama is behind everything. And what he says to me, we got in a little argument over it, because I think every single person from bottom up, top down, whatever way you want to look at it, needs to go who has been responsible for this. And he says, you can't do that because you'll waste so much time, and President Trump's 4 years will go so fast that he'll be able to get nothing done. So Lee proposes you go after these guys who are at the top of the top and you make an example out of them. But how do we know who these folks are, these top level people in these 3-letter agencies who would make a call like assassinating a president?
It would take a deputy who's a career guy who's also in the mega camp, that a spook that knows how to dig into this to root them out. I would fire every SCS, every senior executive service on the first week. I bring them all in and say, thank you for your service. You are now all dismissed. The GS-15s, probably half of them are in the cabal as well. But you'll have to. It's harder to fire a GS employee as it is an SES.
Right.
You can fire an SES right away because they're not controlled by the government restrictions for how to take someone out of the. But it's both Ms. Gabbard and Mr. Radcliffe have to have the right people to work with that are in the camp, in the MAGA camp, in the let's root out this cancer, because if it's just them walking in, they won't have a clue who are the people that because they're all going to smile at them and tell them what they want to hear, and then they're going to give them smoke and mirror briefings and try to wow them with some kind of security, all these. Oh, look at all these new security clearance things that we're going to give you, but it's all smoke and mirrors. It's all designed to to basically placate them while they're there for their 4 years, and then just like the SCS said about General Minahan, then we'll get him out of here, and then we'll always do what the hell we want to do.
It's unbelievable, Russ. What this world has come through, what we've allowed to happen in this country and to transpire. We now find out. We're going to take one more quick break here, but we're learning that Ukraine believes it could build its own nuclear bombs from the spent fuel rods in just a few months. So there you go. There's another issue now that we're going to have if, Vladimir Putin doesn't want to end the war and Zelensky doesn't want to end the war. And Zelensky has every reason to not end the war because he's, when he comes to America to get money, he leaves like a bandit. I mean, gets whatever he wants, gets whatever he asks for. North Korea is another issue, Russ, that's going to be at the top of the issue list. North Korea's media outlets have been silent for the last week and a half since President Trump was declared the winner of the 2024 election. So a lot of stuff to talk about. We're going to take one more quick break. We're also going to talk about President Biden and his final meeting in Peru this week with Xi Jinping. We're coming right back with former senior NSA Intel analyst Russ Tice. Stay with us.
Because of your overwhelming support, our 1488 MyPillow has been one of the biggest sales in MyPillow history. I couldn't think of a better way to say thank you than to extend our wholesale pricing through Christmas. Get a classic standard MyPillow for only $14.88. Upgrade to a queen size, just $18.88. King size, only $1 more. Get my body pillows for only $29.88. And ready? Multi-use MyPillows, only $9.88. It's perfect time to stock up for Christmas gifts for everyone on your list. Go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to take advantage of our wholesale pricing, including my classic standard MyPillows, only $14.88. But that's not all. I'm so confident you're going to love our classic MyPillows that I'm going to extend my 60-day money-back guarantee until March 1st, 2025. Plus, orders over $75 ship absolutely free.
We're back. We're talking with Russ Tice, former senior NSA Intel analyst and whistleblower. Russ, Joe Biden having his one last love affair with Xi Jinping in Peru this weekend for APEC Summit. What do we expect Joe Biden? Why even go if you're Joe Biden? It's sort of interesting to me why an outgoing lame duck president would go down and meet with Xi Jinping just one more time. Is it maybe perhaps they've got business dealings that they're going to talk about? What can they possibly talk about as he's set to leave office in just about 2 months?
Well, maybe President Biden's boss is calling him down there to be read the riot act to and say, hey, we might be going into Taiwan and you're not going to do a damn thing about it. And we have the goods on you and your family. And, if you do anything, you know that I've just recently released a document that's quite lengthy about all the reasons why China would go to war, or take Taiwan, and all the indications that show that have already happened.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I predicted this month that this would happen. Matter of fact, I wrote that document a year ago, and I talked to Lou, and Lou said, it's not a good idea to release this right now because you're giving the Red Chinese a blueprint on how to take Taiwan. So I was like, yeah, I think it's a good idea to hold off. But finally, I let that loose, and it's this month it's been unusually wet in Taiwan and Taipei. Normally it'd be much drier, but November and up to mid and a little bit later in December. I think December is actually the driest month in Taiwan. And right after that, the monsoons hit. The monsoons are anywhere between 2.5 to 3 months worth. So, but what happens after that? President Trump will be back in office, hopefully, if the CIA or someone else doesn't succeed in whacking.
Right.
But Xi Jinping does not want to deal with President Trump. So I think if I had to guess, I think the president of China is telling the president of the United States that if this happens, you're going to stand down and you're not going to do a damn thing about it.
And you think Joe Biden would agree to that?
Absolutely.
Oh,
sure.
my goodness. It's scary to think that, Russ.
In my scenario, first of all, our military service is degraded to the point where, especially the Navy, we couldn't get the ships up in time to do anything about it anyhow. I'm not sure what the situation between the Washington task force and the Reagan task force are, but we're trying to get the Washington in there. I don't think they've taken over for the Reagan yet. And the Reagan is they've been over there for so many years that they're hurting right now. And the only real capability that we have would be from Guam and from Okinawa. And I would think that our fighter wing and the Japanese that are also there on Okinawa would be ready to go. And I would predict that they'd be chomping at the bit to launch, and our president would tell them to stand down.
That's terrifying to think that, Russ. You'd mentioned the military, and that's obviously something that has been diminished. And whether it be the stockpiles of ammunition we have, the missiles that we have, or down to the granular level of the soldiers that have been, thrown out for not taking a vaccine, which RFK, I think, is here now to save the day. Just on a side note, I think it was Jake Tapper over on CNN. He said, "Get ready to get measles." I mean, these people are so damn stupid, Russ. It's hard to believe that anyone lets them go on television to speak. But from what I hear, a lot of them are going to be losing their jobs over at CNN and their high-paying salaries, and that'll be doing a great service to this nation. But back on the military, Russ, there's a report out now from anonymous sources that say the Pentagon is in, quote, absolute disarray with, quote, general scrambling due to incoming Trump administration's plan to fire woke senior military leadership who prioritize diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI, over combat readiness. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. That's absolutely what we've seen. You see, Lloyd Austin has been one of the worst that I think this nation has ever seen when it comes to that. But how do you get morale back up in this military? How do you incentivize? It's hard enough to get, to tell an 18-year-old kid you're going to the military, to ask him to even go to the military. How do you incentivize anyone to want to go to the military? I wouldn't go to the military, Russ, if they offered me $1 million right now with the situation this country's in. And, my hats are off to every single brave person who enlists, who has enlisted over the last 4 years or so, because it takes a real man with a testicular fortitude to go into the war zone right now with this commander in chief. How do we get back the morale for this military so that we can enlist people in this military once again?
First of all those woke idiots need to be done away with. All that brass needs to go away. And then you need to bring in some fighters like that lieutenant colonel in the Marine Corps who stood up and said Afghanistan was a mess and people need to be held responsible. So what did they do? I think first of all, they put him in jail or something.
I think that was Stu Scheller, right?
Yeah, that's the guy.
Nice guy. I had a drink with the guy a few years ago. Very, very nice guy. And Russ, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. The audience gets very mad at me, by the way, when I do this. My staff sends me emails all the time that you can't interrupt the guest, but I'm sorry. It's important when you bring something like that up. I sat down with the guy a few years ago and had a beer with him, completely normal guy. And you read some of this stuff, Russ, and I only bring this up because it's the same thing they do to you, that he's crazy. There's something wrong with him. He's an alcoholic. He's a drug addict. He's this, he's that. I met this guy, Stu Scheller, really nice, down-to-earth guy, and the only thing he did was come out and say, what you guys did in Afghanistan was a disgrace, and it didn't take him to come out and say it. I mean, he put his ass on the line for doing that, Russ, but he ruined his life over it.
Well, I was crazy for suggesting, telling the world that the NSA was spying domestically on all Americans. Oh, that can't be. Russ Tice is a crazy man, right? Thank goodness for Edward Snowden, who came up with the proof of what I've said. So everyone knows now that I was telling the truth. But I would take this fella. I mean, he knows that our job in the military is to break things and kill people, and to be willing to fight our nation's war and win them, and have a force capable and ready to where no one wants to mess with us, so we don't have to go to war. And I would take this fella and I would make him the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, is what I would do with him. I'd promote him. I don't know, lieutenant, colonel now. I'd make him a colonel next week. I'd make him a 1-star general the week after that, 2 stars, 3 stars, 4 stars. And in a month and a half, he'd be a 4-star general, and I'd make him, chairman, because he was the only one who stood up and said, this is outrageous and stupid. And we need fighters like that to fight our wars. When we have our young people see that we're not doing this kind of nonsense anymore, and a young fella in high school right now who wants to serve his country, and be a man about it, not say, oh, gee, I need a timeout. I feel uncomfortable. My drill sergeant is yelling at me, or that's the service we have now. What kind of fighting force is that? Yeah. China realizes that, and they with fentanyl, they probably killed tens of thousands of would-be recruits with the damn drugs they're bringing across the southern border. Yeah. So it's going to take a little bit of time, and we're going to have to weed out the chaff and get things spun up and have the right people, and tell our young people, we are now responsible, and we're going to be warriors.
Yeah, I think a big issue of it, Russ, is that the problem starts at home. The problem, and at home, I mean in your household, how you're raised as a kid. The way kids are, especially males, are being raised these days, I don't want to say the word, but everyone could figure out what I'm alluding to, is what it's come to now. If I didn't catch some of the ass whoopings I caught as a kid, I wouldn't be the man I am today, Obviously, I was mad when I was catching them from an uncle, from I got them from my grandmother, Russ. My grandmother shoved a bar of Dove soap down my mouth one time because I cursed at her. And you know what? I didn't like it at the time, and I kept cursing. But you know what? I look back at it, and I miss her so much because she taught me so much. And you don't see that stuff these days. I'll never forget chewing on Dove soap. Getting in trouble in school, coming home and facing the Grim Reaper banging at the door. It is what it is. We didn't like it at the time, Russ, but I'm sure the same thing happened to you as a kid. But it made me the man I am today, Russ, and it made me appreciate what my peers, my parents, my grandparents were trying to teach me, and it's to be a man, to be a respectable man, to have morals, to have respect, to have testicular fortitude. Going about your everyday life. And we just don't see that. Now, I'm not advocating everyone to go out and beat your kids. I promise I'm not advocating for that. But, I think it's the way that kids are being raised these days, to have an emotional support stuffed animal. If I got beat up on the playground, I go home and say I got beat up on the playground, they'd say, go home, go back tomorrow and kick his butt. You know what I mean? It comes to the time where, you go and you cry about it, and it's really ruining our kids. It's ruining our society as a whole. Kids are, being bullied a lot more now. It's just going down the list. You look at this whole mental health crisis, and it's absolutely real and terrible that we're going through this, but it shouldn't be at this point. And it comes down to the parents at home. Now, I have no kids, thank God, but I see it. I go out here. I do this show every single day. I read hours a day, Russ. I see a society. I travel a lot. I travel around the world. I travel around this country. And I just see how things are being done. Kids have no respect for their parents anymore. I go through airports all the time, and I see kids cursing at their parents, yelling at their parents in their public, saying no to their parents. Russ, if I said no to my parents when we were out in public, I'd get a look from my father where I knew that I was a dead man when I got home. It's just not like that anymore, and it's affecting where we're at as a country. Do you agree?
Absolutely. I mean, I got the soap. If I said an off word, my mother would do stick out your tongue and put the big slab of soap on the, you know, that was, or if I cussed, especially around a female, my father, oh my goodness, I would get swatted upside the head right away. And if me and my brother did something else when we routinely were screwing up, my father would come, my mother would say, wait till your father gets home. And I'd hear that belt unslash from and then he'd snap the belt, snap, and we knew we were getting a whooping, you know. And that's the way it was. So that's the way you're supposed to do it. You know, these days, and I was a Boy Scout, and they teach you God and country and family, and look what they've done to the Boy Scouts. Oh my gosh. First of all, they're not even Boy Scouts anymore. They got a bunch of girls, and they got cross-dressers and transies and everything.
Scouts.
It's disgusting what they've done with the Boy Scouts. And yes, and of course, what do you have when you have these people that have imbued themselves into our schools, and hell, even some of the churches that they'll preach the craziest stuff too. You know, as long as you're filling their coffers. So we have a society where we have kids that want to time out if someone, you know, yet these same kids when they're in college want to like burn down a police a station or something if you know, whenever they're triggered to do so. So we have a situation where we need to bring everything back in line, especially our youth.
Russ, you mentioned these kids on college campuses. If I was in college today and I was on a campus where, now luckily I went to a college where it was very heavily, it wasn't a military university, but heavily presence with military, big ROTC program, a lot of teachers, former military. So there was always a mutual respect, everyone who was in the school there. But if I went to a college, Russ, and I saw one of these kids burning down an American flag, I'd be in jail for the beating that I would have inflicted on them. And it would have been 100% worth it, because what they don't realize is what this country was built on, and the backbone that it was built on, and all the people who died for that flag, and all the people that risked their lives for that flag, and the people whose lives have been ruined for that flag, which brings me up to something I want to talk about before we wrap up here. Suicides in the U.S. military continue again, continuing a long trend for last year. You know, we spoke about incentivizing people to go into the military, but once these people go in, Russ, a lot of them who go overseas don't ever come back the same again. They see things that the ordinary person doesn't see: killings, mutilations, just different things that, you know, things that we don't really even know about because it's sworn to secrecy sort of. And we come home, we bring them home, Russ, and then we kick them to the curb. We let them go ahead, go live your life. Here's a GI Bill if you want to go to college. I don't care that your brains are scrambled. I don't care that you have PTSD. I don't care that you can't sleep at night. I don't care that you can't hear fireworks because you have PTSD from war. We bring them home and we kick them to the curb. Who's going to sign up for that, Russ? And when are we going to get some damn accountability for these veterans who have put everything on the line to defend our rights and liberties overseas?
We have veterans that are living in the streets while we're bringing illegals by the millions and putting them in $500 a night hotels. And we're taking all the money from FEMA and putting it towards these illegals. And then you have a crisis in Florida and in the western part of North Carolina, and there's no money for that because that's all been pilfered. It's a sad scenario that some of our veterans come back, and you know, when you see some of the horrors of what happens overseas, and you see a child being shot in front of you, or a child being used as given a grenade to walk up to you, and you have to shoot the child. You know, can you imagine the trauma that's involved in that? That you were forced to shoot a child because they were bringing a grenade that wanted to kill so many guys in your unit. These guys need help. And we need to foster that help, and everything they need should be given to them because they put their lives on the line. It's that simple. And of course, we in the southern border, we know hopefully on day one what President Trump's going to do there. Yeah,
and I mean, with Veterans Day obviously just passing by this week, you know, it just hits home. You see all these. I was at the Knicks game this week, and you know, it was nice to see. Regardless of how woke basketball has gone and all these professional sports have gone, it was nice to see them paying homage and tribute to some veterans, wounded veterans, and making various donations. And it takes all of us, Russ. It's not a one-man team. It takes all of us. But I think with President Trump back in the White House in January, we're going to see a big difference. Him tapping former Congressman Doug Collins this week, a really genuinely good person to head up the VA. I think this administration, the second time around, he did a lot the first time when he let veterans go to any doctors and hospitals they needed to go to, not to wait months and years to go see a doctor in the VA. I think he did a lot the first time, and I think he's going to do it again. And it's not bad for a president who allegedly referred to people who joined the military as suckers and losers, because we're supposed to believe that, Russ. Russ, you got the last word here. I want your outlook, your take on where we go from here and how this thing unfolds in the new year.
I like it a lot. I couldn't help but to smile to see a true red wave and President Trump at the crest of that wave. And it's I think he's going to be the Teddy Roosevelt of our era. And he's going to, Ronald Reagan defeated the Soviet threat. I believe truly that President Trump is going to defeat the internal threat that our Constitution warns us about. And that is something that has to happen for us to maintain our republic.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Russ, Tice, you're a great American. Thanks for everything you do for this country. I mean, there's nothing I would love more than to see Russ Tice in some capacity inside of the new Trump administration. Where the bodies are buried, and all the bad things that can be done and have been done using our intelligence community. Russ, we'll talk to you soon. Be available for us, brother.
I'm here. Thanks, John.
Russ Tice, truly a great American, and I really, truly mean that. He was a really good friend of Lou, a really great friend of the show, and I've gotten to know Russ over the last few years of working with him. Truly a genuine person who just wants the best for this country. So when I mean I'd love to see him in the Trump administration, I really mean that. Folks, we'll see you back here tomorrow for the Great America Show, I hope, where we continue our quest for truth, justice, and the American way. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at John Fawcett NY, on Truth Social at John Fawcett, and we're now on Instagram at The Great America Show. You can follow us there. Like I said, we'll see you back here tomorrow, I hope. May God bless you all. May God bless America, and may God bless the great Lou Dobbs.